So this video will show one last method of solving an equation. This time we will use a formula. So if you don't want to factor, or there's fractions in your equation and they're hard to deal with, or if you have especially small decimals, it's probably easier to use a formula. So first thing you have to do when you use a formula is determine what the coefficients are. So in this case we have a equals 1, b equals 2, c equals -1. Like, don't forget, the coefficient a is always the number that's in front of the variable squared. It's not always the first one, because the order might be different. And the b is always the value that's in front of just the variable. And then c is just the number on its own. We also call that the constant term. So in the second one, we'd have a equals 3, b equals -8, and c equals 2. Now, the formula is x equals negative b plus or minus root of b squared minus 4ac, all that divided by 2a. So if you saw the previous video, you can probably guess where that plus or minus from. So that's when you have the vertex form and that you want to solve for x. When you're doing the root of each side, you have to consider the plus and minus answers. And when we're using this formula, one thing that's important is to consider something called the determinant. So the determinant has just a formula that's inside the root, and the reason for that, as we saw that in the previous problem too, is you can't find the root of a negative number. So if the value of d that you will find the root of is above 0, that means that your quadratic formula has 2 solutions. If the value of the determinant is equal to exactly 0, you only have 1 solution. And finally, if d is smaller than 0, well, you have no solutions. So if you have a simple question that just asks you, like, how many solutions are there to this expression, you would simply find the determinant, and from there decide if there's none, 1, or 2 solutions. That's for any trinomial that's a power of 2. Okay, so if we want to use the formula of the first one, we will start by writing x equals, so value of b is 2, so we put -2, plus or minus root, so b squared, that's 2 to the power of 2, minus 4 multiplied by a, which is just 1, multiplied by c, which is a -1. So I'll put this one in bracket, make sure it's a multiplication, and we divide all this by 2a. That's 2 multiplied by 1, doesn't change much. So we have x equals -2 plus or minus root of 4 plus 4, all this divided by 2, and then x equals -2 plus or minus root of 8 divided by 2. So this one's a bit special because it is possible to simplify it. The way you would simplify this is that root of 8 is actually root of 4 times 2. The reason we want to do this is there's a little rule that says that if you multiply the radicants, you can actually do a multiplication of roots. And you'll notice that root of 4 is an exact number, and we leave root of 2 as is because it's irrational. So we can rewrite this as x equals -2 plus or minus 2 root of 2 over 2. And the 2 will simplify into the 2 terms, and we will be left with x equals -1 plus or minus root of 2. So in this case, the first x would be minus 1 plus root of 2, that's one answer. And the second one would be x equals minus 1 minus root of 2. So it's very possible that your teacher will let you keep the answer as minus 1 plus or minus root of 2. And in many cases, when you get to the answer that's here, when you're done using the formula, because the rest is just really simplification, this is where you're done using the formula. That's actually an answer. It's not the best answer, but it's correct. Okay, so the second one, we'll do the same thing. So we have x equals, so value of b is minus 8, so minus negative 8 becomes plus 8. So plus or minus the root. So we have minus 8 squared minus 4 times 3 times 2, all that divided by 2a, which is 2 times 3. Okay, so we have x equals 8 plus or minus, so big root, we'll do a bit of solving in there, minus 8 to the power 2, that is 64. And here we have 3 times 2 is 6, 6 times 4 is 24. All that divided by 6. And one last step, just to find what I'll call the raw answer. That's before you do any simplification. So 8 plus or minus root of 40. Okay, so this is still divided by 6. So this is our raw answer. So we can simplify this a little bit. The way we can do that is 40, root of 40, is actually root of 4 times 10, which becomes root of 4 multiplied by root of 10 becomes 2 root of 10. So you can rewrite this as x equals 8 plus or minus 2 root of 10 over 6. And we can simplify everything by dividing each term by 2, top and bottom. So we have x equals 4 plus or minus root of 10 over 3. So we won't write out both answers, but one's positive and the other one's with negative. And that would be the answer for this one.